All right, I'm out on this walk. It's a hot one today. It was nice this morning, but I had to get that sleep, you know. So then, of course, worked out and all the pre-workout stuff, post-workout, and of course, I don't want to go walking like 40 something minutes, like right after working out, you know. I mean, even like right after eating, you gotta let your food digest a little bit, you know. And then my back was kind of sore. But it's actually feeling better now. It's loosening up a little bit. It's amazing how you just get moving. You know, I could have just said like, the heck with it. My back hurts. I'm just gonna go back and just not do it. But try to move around a little bit, stretch out. You know, a lot of times when it's your lower back, it's actually like your hip flexors and your in your hips, where your hips, it comes down. I know it seems weird, but it comes down through your pelvic bone, around your pelvic bone, and then goes up into your lower back. So I almost tempted to get on the grass here at the people's house and start stretching, but I do have there's a public here, maybe even on the side of the road, just do some stretches. If I find a good spot, might even do that. But anyway, it can help a lot depending on what your situation is, you know. So when you got like 3 diagnoses on your back, and my back wasn't feeling too great, and it was part of my workout today, to work my lower back with some extensions. So I warm up real good and stuff, but it was already feeling a little bit of a twinge or something going on there. And I tend to work it anyway, even if I'm due to. But always, of course, warm up real good, especially when you start getting up in your, into your 30s, 40s, and so on. And after that, warming up is really, really important. A lot of times when you're a teenager or in your 20s, warming up's kind of like a second thought, like a afterthought. And it's not something that you see a lot of young guys do much at all, and certainly not do very well. And especially when you get into like teenagers and stuff, they are able. And the thing is, they can kind of get away with it, I used to kind of get away with it, but now, if I'm doing pull movements, and of course, as you advance in lifting, you lift heavier and heavier weights, there's something to be said for that too, in terms of its importance. But some of this you guys watching this might already know, but just in case. But yeah, and I always stretch after. I don't stretch everything, but stretch like, what I worked, sometimes on a Friday preparing for Shabbos, things like that. I might make my stretching quick, depending on what time it is, quicker than, a little bit quicker, not much, but always like to stretch after what I worked. I don't like to do static stretching. It's not really recommended to do a lot of static stretching before you work out, although if you're trying to avoid injury, sometimes that's almost more important than the effect you're trying to get of the exercise. But supposedly, oh, look at this, beautiful white flowers in here. It smells really nice too. They're just like wild. Is that blackberries or something? I'm not even sure what that is. Maybe one of y'all can tell me in the comments if you recognize that. But I think that's what has a nice smell. So it's nice to have some flowers around that's still smelling good. But I was saying, let me see, what was I saying? We were talking about warming up, stretching out. Yeah, I lost track. I had a feeling as soon as I diverged into the flowers thing too, I was gonna forget. But nope, not remembering. I know it was something around stretching out, warming up, but yeah, so I'll warm up like on pull movements. I'm about to put together a video, or a short at least, for a workout, kind of short, kind of a little fun one. But I lately, in the last several months, have started warming up my brachialis, with some hammer curls, real light, 15 pounds or something. Then I'll go up maybe 25 pounds and just do some hammer curls. And of course, I do warm-up sets on the pull movements too. additional warm-up sets. And I'll do some, that's what I was gonna say, I'll do some dynamic stretching. You know, I will do that and loosen up. And honestly, I try to get my, and I don't know if this is actually a thing, maybe you guys could tell me in the comments, but I feel like to even, you know, warm up my shoulders and get my shoulders working good, even when I do pull movements, you know, when I'm doing back basically, I still try to warm up my shoulders. You know, I don't necessarily do like warm-up exercises in terms of like with weights, like I would warm up on a chest and shoulder day or something, but I still try to get my shoulders, you know, moving real good, and no clicking going on, or, you know, nothing like that. I feel like it's important even to pull movements. Of course, your rotator, you know, is depending on what you're doing. Your rotator is back there, and your scap and all the muscles around there and stuff. I want all that stuff good and good and greased and moving good before I go heavy with pull movements. So, and I have gotten minor like strains before in my what seems like my rhomboids or even lower traps, you know, just out of nowhere, like just weird, and it won't even be what I was doing, like wasn't even working, but and it usually goes away. You know, sometimes I try to stretch it out and it doesn't go away. One time, like recently, some months back, it lingered, and 2 or 3 days, you know, it subsided. Hello, it subsided, but yeah, just why induce injury? You know, why risk injury just for the sake of doing some warm-up sets? You know, so yeah, I really like to watch shoulder health. I like to watch knee health. Of course, my back has gotten a lot stronger in recent months, and it's actually feeling really good right now. Really loosened up. I was sitting for a while, you know, which was intentional. Watching a movie, The Color Purple or something like that. Watched some of that. But I was intending to relax for a little while because it was busy this morning, and I worked out, and I finally got my meal in, and you know, I was gonna go for a walk right away. And I said, nah, I'm gonna relax for a little while, let the food digest, and you know, go out later. I'm trying to walk earlier and then later. And like tomorrow, I'm planning a trip where I'll be in the sand, and if I'm up early enough, I'll actually walk before I even go there probably, and then walk while I'm out there. You kind of mix the grounding and the walking, you know, when you can get your feet in the sand or the grass, or even a trail. Of course, you know, if your feet aren't used to it, you know, even if there's a little bit of rocks and things like that, you know, it can be uncomfortable, and depending on how serious it is, you know, kind of inconvenient. But if you can walk barefooted, like obviously the beach works great, you know, unless it's a rocky beach, you know, then you're in the same situation. But I'm saying like a sandy beach, you know, if you can get to that, or a lake, or depending on where you're at in the country or world, but or by the river, you know, depending on what the river area is like, or just getting out in creation and nature and walking, and you can mix it with grounding and earthing too. That's really fantastic. Right now, they built this sidewalk some months back. They finished it, and it's really nice. It's great. I'm thankful for it, you know. It goes along this whole road. They're doing a lot of it in the city here. That kind of work. Here's those flowers again. Somebody's probably gonna tell me there's some kind of weed or something, like some noxious weed. But anyway, yeah. So I appreciate the sidewalk. I used to sprint this. I used to do high intensity interval sprints, and in some ways, I almost like when it's a flat road as well too. But this is really nice sidewalk, you know. And the ups and downs, I'll show you one coming up here, is really gradual. So it's, you know, you could sprint through it, but you know, you still want to pay attention where you're walking, and especially when you're running. You know, but you can see this here, how they made it. You know, I don't know if that's standard nowadays or what, but it's really gradual. This one's a little bit steeper, but still not bad. You know, if you're running, shouldn't be injurious or anything. You can feel a little bit in your knees going up, but nothing that you can't deal with. You know, so that's one thing about going on the road. You know, the road is tends to be flat. You might have a hill, but you don't have this quick up and down. Then of course, if you got potholes, you gotta watch out. But you know, just on the side of the road was pretty good. So back when I was like 30, I used to sprint this or do high intensity interval sprints, basically all the way here and to the park that's coming up, and then all the way back. So it was about, I think it's like 2.2 miles the whole route. And I got, when I was really in shape, like I got where I was sprinting most of it, like sprinting longer and doing shorter rest periods. And when I sprint, it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm sprinting. It's like all out, you know. It's like an all out sprint. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that, but it's not conducive to what we're trying to accomplish right now and what we are accomplishing with cortisol and, you know, rebalancing some things I've talked about in other videos. I won't go into that, but so what we're working on, you know, hormonally, but I keep reminding myself, even though I want to train hard again and, you know, and maybe do sprints and start getting, you know, results with that, you know, you're not going to probably get the results. You just remind myself today, like, you're not probably going to get the results you're going to get anyway until you get things straight with your, you know, hormonally and with your hormones and with your cortisol and adrenals. And of course, you know, I think the thyroid upregulation is good. It's probably pretty set now, but glucose, you know, with glucose too high, that's something a lot of you may not realize. I probably will, especially if I go into a bulking phase again, I probably will monitor my glucose closely, because if your glucose is too high, you know, basically, you know, you need insulin to shuttle to the muscles to build muscle, and you're not really going to build any muscle if your insulin's too high. You're just not going to. So it makes sense why I was not frustrated, but I was, you know, not having results with my previous bulks at a certain point. So just something as simple as that, as, you know, testing your glucose. And then I hope to learn more about how to get it down, you know, and preferably quickly, you know, obviously without keto and stuff like that. But I think walking after you eat, I know that's been shown to lower blood glucose, but you know, how to really get it down in significant percentages and an amount that's really good for bodybuilding, because, and you probably can do it pretty quick, because the difference between high glucose and the ideal glucose you want is maybe 10 to 20 points. You know what I mean? So you can probably, you know what, and I'll, if you guys know anything about it and you want to put it in the comments, feel free, or put a link to a video or something. But, and maybe as I find out more about it, I can share it as well too. But I've asked the trainer I'm working with. I haven't gotten much out of that, finding out how. But obviously, if we work together through those phases, you know, that's gonna be sometime down the road. But if we work together through those phases, I'll find out more at that time on what to do. Because that's really so important, especially if you're trying to put on muscle. You know, if your hormones in general, if your hormones aren't good, your hormones aren't straight, it's going to be really hard to put on much muscle at all, or possibly not at all, despite your training. You know, in this regimen I've been on for the last about 4 weeks or so, I guess, you know, basically my muscle mass, I just did an InBody scan today from last week. My muscle mass has stayed the same, lean muscle mass, and I've lost weight and burned fat, and that's not like at least 5 pounds. And that's not even the point. Body composition is not even what we're going after right now. But just as a result of, even though I'm eating more, I'm actually eating more. I'm not in a calorie deficit, most likely. No, I don't think I'm in a calorie deficit. We're not even tracking calories, honestly. That's not even what's going on right now. But I'm actually eating more, but because we've taken down inflammation, and the cells are more responsive and sensitive to insulin, you know, I'm actually losing weight, burning fat, and maintaining muscle. And that was the real marvel to me that I had to give this guy a lot of credit to, because You know, of course, and he said, you know, good work, like, but I say you too, bro, because, like, you know, obviously what he's doing is working, because I expected to lose muscle, you know, not training hard, training at an RP of 7, like 3 to 5 reps from failure, and of course, you know, eating pretty good, but I still expected, like, you know, to lose some muscle, and I haven't been losing muscle at all. I mean, like, at all. When I say at all, it's been like 88.8. Last spot in body scan jumped to 88.4, and this one it was back up to 88.8. So when I say at all, like, haven't been losing muscle at all, and losing weight. So I mean, when I was doing a cut myself without the trainer, for example, a nutritionist, you know, I was losing muscle, and I was training hard. I was training like to the wall, like, you know, like to fit really intense, like double drop sets and stuff. I mean, my older videos from some weeks or months back, you can see that. And I was only in a modest deficit, like 500 calories a day on average, right? And that included activity. That was calculating activity as well. That wasn't RMR. Don't do a deficit based on your RMR. I would not recommend that. You're going to tank your hormone, especially for any extended period of time. It's not how to do it. A lot of people don't realize that, and you're not going to lose much more weight by being in that severe of a deficit than you would by because your body's only going to usually metabolize fat, assuming, you know, you're assuming your gut health and your hormones are what are for typical people, you know, aren't like optimal. I'm sorry about all the car noise here. Aren't like optimal. You know, you're only going to metabolize. I mean, I've done extended fasting and lost weight pretty much around the same pace as being in a 500 calorie deficit. So anyway, that's a whole different subject, maybe for a different video. But what I was blown away with was not losing any muscle, because even when I was in a cut and not really doing cardio a lot, and you know, not even in that big of a deficit, I was losing muscle. I was losing muscle every in body scan. There was muscle coming off. At first it was fine, but within a week or two, couple weeks, you know, you started losing muscle in smaller amounts, but you're still losing muscle. It's very hard not to lose muscle and lose fat at the same time, as you may know if you've been this rodeo enough. So yeah, so that's been really cool. Even though I feel like my arms are smaller and stuff like that, I haven't been on creatine. Not doing creatine at all. It's just, I mean, other than that, it makes you a little, you know, maybe appear a little bigger, possibly, depending on who you are, and depending on, you know, some people think so, some people don't think so, but it's just not necessary right now, because I'm not training at a most of what creatine does for you kicks in if you train hard, you know, if you train into failure and beyond, and not what people call failure, where it gets tough. I'm talking about where you physically cannot do another rep, like you cannot do another concentric phase of the rep. Like if somebody was like threatening you, you know, God forbid, you couldn't physically, you can't physically, as far as, you know, relatively speaking, push out another rep in good form especially as well. So that's a lot of people say they work to failure. Oh, I work close to failure, I work to failure, but they don't. I don't see hardly anybody in the gym training that intensely, you know. In multiple gyms I've been in over the last couple, 2-3 years, I don't see hardly anybody training to failure, and hardly anybody training, you know, that intensity. Not everybody's a high intensity advocate either. Not everybody has that mindset to do that, but to even train that hard in the first place. And I'm not saying you can't get any results. You know, of course you're going to get results. You can get results, you know, training close to failure. The studies show that. But if you train like, you know, really all out, and you use high intensity tactics, maybe talk about that in another video. You know, even if you're a hard gainer, you know, you should be, although now that I've gone through this experience, you know, I wonder how many people are really hard gainers and how much other stuff is going on there at times, okay? But obviously there's, you know, genetic, there's people that are disadvantaged, if you want to call it that, or have a tougher time in that regard. I get that, but a lot of times it's diet and exercise. You know, a lot of times it's the nutrition is not on point, and a lot of times even behind the diet and exercise, or the exercise is not intense enough. A lot of times behind that, you know, like in my case, you know, my nutrition was pretty darn good. I mean, not quite as spot on as it is now, but definitely worlds ahead of, you know, probably a lot of your average diet. And I certainly wasn't in a dirty bulk. You know, I would eat some junk here and there, but like most of my nutrition was on point. You know, sweet potatoes, brown rice, lean protein. You know, started working in fats. I just wasn't getting anywhere. You know, so if that happens, you know, you might want to look at your hormonal health and your, because a lot of this stuff people are not even going to find out about if you just rely on your PCP, your doctor, or your, you know, your annual blood work and stuff. They don't even test for a lot of this stuff unless you work with the right kind of practitioner. They're not even going to catch this stuff. They're not going to do a GI map. They're not going to, until something is like so serious, you know what I mean? Like so drastic, you know, because the healthcare system, unfortunately, it's more of a sick care system, you know. It more responds to when people are sick or infirmed, you know, Chas v'shalom, God forbid. It more responds to that than helping them be healthy. Very little of it is preventative and addresses it before it becomes, you know, a climatic or, you know, sometimes worse issue. I'm gonna go down here. This looks like a pretty cool, I haven't gone down here yet. Little trail in here. Yeah, just a little bit. I'm not gonna go too far because I'm just gonna check it out just briefly. It'd be cool to bring the kids in here or something. All right, that's good enough. A little bit more. That's good enough. It'd be cool to even bring a bike in here with these turns and stuff. Mountain bike. If any of you guys do mountain bikes, comment down below. Tell me if this is a good mountain bike trail right here. You can't get much speed going because it twists and winds so much. Or maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys are crazy mountain bikers. But anyway. Yeah, I just wanted to check it out real quick. I'm not going to walk that far down there. Yeah, this is turning into like the longest video that I've made for YouTube so far. Like I mostly doing shorts, and I did one like 5 minutes, and then the other day I did one that was a little bit longer. This one's even longer than that. Yeah, so this is cool. You get out of the sun for a sec too, right? So anyway, thankfully there's a lot of trees here and stuff. You know, you get a good amount of shade and stuff. It's like peak hours right now. About we're like almost 4 o'clock here. But it feels like it was not the sun wasn't as strong around like 2 for whatever reason. But usually, you know, if you don't know, like your peak hours are like 10 to 2 or 12 to 2 are considered like peak hours, especially for summer. And that's when the UV index is usually the highest. And you know, if you try to limit your UV exposure like I do, especially on my face, try to take care of my face and neck and all that, you know. I'll put some on like I went to the beach the other day, I'll put some sunblock on my shoulders and my back a little bit just because it gets, you know, it really gets hammered with being out in the sun. And I will put some on my body. If I was going to be out a lot, like I'm looking to travel and go somewhere that I'm going to be outside a lot in the sun and really strong there, you know, I probably will use it on my body, especially my upper body, you know, some. But the use of good sunblock, a mineral sunscreen, mineral-based, physical sunscreen, mineral sunscreen is called different things like that. Zinc oxide or titanium oxide usually are. The chemicals are, you try to use a mineral physical sunscreen. Again, that's not what this video is about, but use a physical mineral sunscreen. At least with that, you can control like how much exposure you're getting. You know, if you're outside a lot, and even if you're not, it goes through the windows. You know, your UV can go through the windows, goes through your car windows, all that kind of stuff. So at least with sunblock, you can control your exposure. You can say, all right, I want to get a little sun, but I want to be, you know, we want to like control it too. Obviously, people that work outside on a roof or on a farm or in a field or stuff like that, you know, you have to reapply, you know, most likely, especially if you're sweating and stuff and, you know, using water and you're washing it off. But supposedly, some say the physical sunscreen, you don't have to reapply as much as the chemical stuff, but I still think it's a good idea. You know, sunscreen's cheap, right? Sun exposure could be expensive, you know, God forbid. I mean, so, you know, I think sunscreen's cheap. Put on some more sunscreen again. Like if I was leaving the beach the other day, like if I was gonna stay, I probably would have reapplied, would have went in the water again a little bit, and probably would have reapplied sometime soon after. So anyway, back to the topic at hand. Actually, to be honest, I think I'm gonna wrap this up. Let me know if there's any of the topics, any of the things we talked about, you guys want to hear more about. You guys want to more information on, or me to go more in depth on. But these walking and talkings work good for me. Maybe it motivates you to get walking too. All right, wish you all the best.